Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. In today's Minidose, we are going to talk about a really beloved topic of mine currently, which is the idea of rest, slowing down, taking space, and figuring out how the fuck we do that. Because I have spent a lot of time on this season, many episodes, talking about the idea of slowing down. It's integral to the things that I've been talking about. You know, in my episode number 27 with Stephanie, we talk about making more space in your life so that you can contribute to others, so that you can show up, so that you can utilize your gifts and build your community and build your relationships. In my episode with Lakisha, we talk about, sustainable career driven success, how to achieve your career goals while also prioritizing rest. That rest is an essential part of that work. And so I talk about this, but you might be sitting in the same camp as I am a lot of times, being like, but how do I make this space? Like, our lives have gotten so busy and crazy and there's so many demands. And so how do we actually slow down? I hope I have some helpful things. This is kind of like a chat, like a little like FaceTime chat, except for I don't really like to FaceTime. So like a little phone call me and you are having about this concept we've both been struggling on of like, I want more space. I feel the need for more rest. I feel my body asking for that. I'm too crammed up. Things that are really important to me drop by the wayside, and things that aren't that important or things that I'm spending so much time on, and blah, 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 blah. So me and you are just chatting about it, trying to figure it out. I think I have some good things that I'll be able to share, maybe some moments where you'll be like, okay, shit, I'll take that with me. But yeah, I'm working it out as we go along. But like I said, I've been thinking about this a lot in my own life lately, and I feel like I've made some good positive change. So hopefully that'll help, because I think this is just so essential, and especially at this time of the year, if you're listening when this comes out, like the new year, really, wanting to start fresh and get off on a good foot and make the changes that we want to make. I think this idea of slowing down is really important in keeping those things up and being able to create the availability in your life to show up differently. So, as I've already said, I think that the underlying idea behind slowing down and rest is the idea of creating space. Ooh, so much nice, free, spacious space. And talking about this on more of like a conceptual level, space kind of equates time in our world in a way, not always, because I think the way that we do things can also like bring an energy of spaciousness, of ease with it. Even if we're just doing the chores around the house, like the dishes, there can be an energy that we bring to that is intentional and present, so it can feel spacious. We can feel the water doing the dishes. We can, so anyway, but I think that a large part of it on a practical level is time. Like, we need to create more buffer, more actual tangible time for rest. And in this space, and in the reason why we want this space, there's, an ability to be more present, to give back to others, to show up for friends, to align more deeply with your unique personhood, to consciously consume with this extra space, to enjoy the journey of being alive, to listen fully. These are all wonderful things that I think many of us are striving for, to be present in our life, to find the enjoyment, to show up for people, to listen, to fully lean into our vitality, our aliveness. And that's what we get when we create more of this space. So my initial thought, and probably most important one in this conversation, is we have to be realistic about the time that we do have and about what things can be put on the back burner or be let go of completely to create more space. Because man, you guys, if it was a mindset thing, I would have aced this shit. If it was just like, no, I'm going to keep doing exactly all the stuff I have to do. I'm going to make sure my plate is super full, as it always is. And on top of that, I'm going to rest. On top of that, I am going to be able to show up last minute when a friend calls. On top of that, I am going to, be fully engaged in conversation. But, my house is going to be perfectly clean. I'm going to be getting everything knocked off of my to-do list. I am going to be bringing homemade cookies to the event. Like the vibe I bring to the function is homemade cookies. But, I if it was a mindset shift, I would know that by now and I would give you the keys to that. But unfortunately, it's not. There is a practical level to creating space, which actually always means putting some things on the back burner or letting some things go. And I think this is why I started with the idea of what comes in to that space, why this slowing down is important, like what it gives to our lives, because it can be very challenging to decide or to really put some things on the back burner. We want it all. We want to be everything to everybody. We want to make sure it's all done. We want to get it all perfect. We want to, just be on top of the game and be present for it and be enjoying it. And so that's just a fallacy that is possible. I'll give you a real life example. For me, creating this luxurious space, slowing down, being more mindful, all these amazing things has looked like having dishes in the sink more often for longer periods of time. Yeah. The room I'm recording in right now, kind of messy. And to some of you guys, that might seem like a big deal. Other of you listening might be like, that's not that big of a deal, girl. What the hell? But to me, it is. And it's something that took a lot of my time before to keep my space straight, to get all the dishes done, almost as soon as they were dirty. And now that I've let that stuff fall back a little bit, I have had more time for other things. I actually will just sit on the couch and breathe for a couple of minutes before moving into my next task of the day, instead of getting up and doing the dishes and doing the laundry and blah, 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 blah. So that really is the starting place, is figuring out what it is that you might not want to fall on the wayside. You may love if you could do it all, but what can you actually give up or release a little bit? Is there something, do you like to watch 2 hours of TV a night? Can you actually just watch one? So this is going to look different for everybody. My example may or may not resonate with you, but there is something that will resonate with you. There is something, if you are craving slowing down, there is something on your plate that can and should go, even if it's just temporarily. And so this kind of leads me to the idea of aligning with your personal values and your own intentions and your priorities, which I talked a lot about in the last mini dose on how to have a fresh start. I sound like a broken record when I talk about this stuff, but really getting clear on priorities especially is so valuable, because right now some of your priorities might not be the priorities that you wish that they were. Maybe you have family obligations, and so that has to take top priority over a hobby that you really love. And you might not want that to be true. But if it's true, we need to get real with that, because when we're continually fighting ourselves on maybe wanting to spend time on something that we're not actually spending time on, And whether or not it's actually possible for us to spend time on that thing, that's for us to decide. But we have to take like a real honest appraisal, because when we're staying in that space of kind of like trying to trick ourselves into our priorities being different than they actually are, and so we're trying to squeeze everything in all of the time, it's not going to work. So getting clear on what it is that really matters, and putting some things on the back burner, letting some things go completely that you can, to first create some more of that space. Okay, so then in that space, how do we rest? Well, there's this idea of active versus passive rest. And so active rest would look like, going for a walk, doing some yoga, reading a book, potentially. Versus active rest or passive rest, which is like sleeping and resting your eyes and laying down and like literally just putting your body into neutral and taking a pause. So considering where in your life can you make space for these different kinds of rest? Which kind of rest are you really in need of right now? I've been sick with a cold lately, and I've really needed more sleep and more passive rest. And that is hard for me to come by, especially throughout my day. Like maybe I'll prioritize sleep at night, but throughout my day, instead of getting up and going on that walk, it's actually been way more beneficial for me to chill on the couch and let my body take it easy. And so, because of that sickness, my rest has looked different than maybe it looks at other times. So just keeping that in mind and creating a ritual around rest. Rituals can really help our brains switch over. So if this is something that you struggle with a lot, like, even when you are able to create that space and slow down a bit, that once you're there, it's really hard to rest, to turn your brain off, to take that time. Creating rituals can be a really helpful way to work with that. So maybe this looks like a certain room in your house, or it looks like a playlist that you put on, or a candle that you burn, or a specific activity that you do, taking a bath, going on a walk. There's something that you can keep sacred can help your brain kind of switch into gear and like, okay, yeah, now we're resting, now we're taking space. This can also look like turning the lights down, or having a cutoff time for yourself if you're doing work, having a time that you're going to get up, you're going to move to the other room, and seeing if you can build that ritual consistently, because that's going to really help. If at 6 p.m. every night you stop yourself and you go take some time to relax, then maybe the first couple of times it's hard to switch your brain off. It feels really unnatural, but as you go on, it kind of builds up that your body and your brain aligning and kind of being able to know what to expect, the way that you set like a sleep schedule. So then I would say to, along with that ritual idea, to really build in time and see rest as being valuable. So this is an opportunity to examine your beliefs around productivity, around rest, around slowing down, and how all of these things impact your view of your worth, your value in a day, and seeing if there's any narratives there that are really holding you back or feel negative inside of your body, and see, is it possible for you to try out a new narrative, to try out a new belief? And I think it can be really helpful to connect to systems that are bigger than you in this case. So if you have a religious or spiritual belief, there might be things that are already kind of built in around the idea of rest. But also, when we look to nature, when we look at the seasons, fall and winter are periods of time about slowing down. Winter really going dormant and going inward and creating more space, it looks like not much is happening. It's not about productivity. And that's built into how our seasons work. We can also look at the moon. The moon has 4 phases, and half of that time is spent on waning, on rest. Rest is built into our natural systems. So if you need to rely on those things, lean into those systems that are bigger than us to remind us that nature has rest built in. There is a time for creation, there's a time to push forward, and there is a time to prune back and to slow down. And it's okay for your periods of time to look different than other people's periods of rest or the way that they rest. So holding space for you to not be like everyone else. And I think along with that is one of the most important parts to me, which is remaining flexible. So there are times in your life where this is going to be more accessible, and there's times where it's going to be off of the table. The holiday season, which we just got off the heels of, that is going to be a time where there's so much getting added in that carving out more space might be completely inaccessible for you. And that's okay. Maybe the summer is slower and you have more time and availability there. So remaining flexible, letting this change over time, being gentle with yourself, knowing that your life, your space, your capacity is going to look different at different times and in different chapters of your life. And so I hope this really helped you. I don't know. I'm still thinking through a lot of this. I can probably talk more about it. I definitely will talk more about it in the future. So please follow along if you want to hear more, and let me know your thoughts on this topic. I think it's an ever-evolving thing in the world that we live in, and I would love to hear what you think. And if you liked this, please share it and give me a review. It helps me so much, and I'll catch you in the next one.